did my research. I did so much research on this woman, and come to find out she was the music supervisor for Breaking Bad. You said something on one of your TikTok videos that stuck with me, but collaboration is key. The person that's like really next to you is the person that's going to get you your safe placement. Go on Tubi, watch a few of those crazy ass movies, right?
They're
Look at
crazy.
some and look at some of the music supervisors, and look at some of the projects that they're working on.
If anybody is joining right now and you're not familiar with who you have on your screen, I go back XcaliberZero. And then we also have my man Plan B 85, aka Brandon. Here, I came across him on TikTok, and I feel like he has a lot of valuable information to share. I'm super hyped to have you on here. Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on here, and let's give you everybody an intro to who you are and kind of how you got started within sync licensing.
My name is Brandon Plan B. I'm a music producer, sound designer, engineer, music composer for television and film. I've been in the sync world for about 8 years, but I have been producing God, for at least 20 years now, man. To say it like it's been a while. 10, maybe 15 of those professionally. Everything else was earning my leisure at the time, trying to earn my leisure at the time. But like many people who somewhat get started in this, especially now, I started with a music library. You know what I'm saying? That's how I got in. That story, we can chop it up in bits and pieces, but there's like that particular story is where I really got my start into sync licensing. I ran into a gentleman who was the licensing coordinator at a music library, and we got really cool with each other, and it's been on the up and up since then.
Dope, man. And I kind of wanted to pick your brain about that a little bit because I heard from obviously stud you. I gotta get research on you and figure out a little bit more about your story and stuff like that. And I see you have your website set up with your whole about me, like your whole story behind that. And then also I heard you on Anthony Clint on his interview with you, and he said, and you said that there was a networking event that you kind of got on. That's how you kind of met him, right?
Yeah.
Do you elaborate on that?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I wanted to it was crazy. I was just talking with my wife about this, and there's not a lot of networking events like this. This was pre-pandemic, when I was running around New York. And I was going to every single networking event I could find. This one in particular was specific to sync agents, music libraries, you know what I mean? Like there weren't really too many people like myself in the building as far as like composers and artists are concerned. So
Right.
looking back on that night, I kind of got lucky. But he was the last person that I met that night. I was leaving the bathroom, I was getting my coat, and I was about to leave, and he stopped me and he was like, "Hey, what do what's your name? What do you do?" "My name is dot dot dot. Our company does this, that, and the third." He gave me his card. And I sat on it for maybe like a day, but I ended up going home, doing a little bit of research, and I was like, "Oh, this might be something." And I sent him a couple tracks. I sent them maybe like 5, maybe 10 joints just for him to listen to. And then they asked me for more. And I was like, "How much more?" And they were like, "How much you got?" And I tell people the story, like I flooded them with almost 200 tracks within
Jeez.
within the first month.
Damn.
Yeah. So, and of those 275 were placed within the first 30 to 60 days.
That's crazy, man. And that's
Yeah.
very, very unique.
Yeah.
And coming just a couple of points you made there that I kind of want to tap into because I feel like there's a lot of valuable information, which is why I'm hyped to get you on here because I feel like a lot of people are going to start learning. One, the fact that you were going to these networking events, especially there's not a lot of diversity. I feel like back then, especially with these type of events. So props to you for having the confidence to putting yourself out there and making those connections in person because there's something a lot deeper when you make these connections in person and kind of just get to pick people's brains and just learn a little bit about them outside of just what they do in the industry, but also who they are as a person and kind of get a vibe off their personality. And I want to kind of ask you, how do you find these networking events and how do you kind of approach these networking events when you go there?
Okay. So that was maybe one of 3 that I've been to sync wise within like the last 7, within like the last 7 or 8 years. I don't can I say this? So my wife, she used to work for BMI back in the day.
Oh, right? Okay. Oh, dope.
And we kind of built this network. She had like her own little network of people, and I had kind of built my network of people. and it would be just kind of like events flying around. But
Mm.
on her side, she was more so on the television and film side, so, and she was also an aspiring music supervisor at the time too. So, and a music supervisor now. So,
That's dope.
yeah, she, kind of, passed that to me. I was actually her plus one for that particular event. And as time went on, I started finding other people who had, were putting on these events when they were putting them on. And actually the same gentleman, oh God, I wish I remembered his name, who put on the very first event that I went to about a year ago. He did another event, and I actually flew from Atlanta to New York just to be there for that event.
Oh,
You know
damn.
what I'm
Okay.
saying? So I made the sacrifice. I met a few people there. I actually met a new gentleman who has another music library or sync company or whatever. When I actually went back for that event, so it was worth the trip. You know what I mean? Because I
Right.
probably wouldn't have met him here in Atlanta. Because unfortunately down here it's not. Um, there's not a lot of events like that are specifically catered to sync. There's a bunch of music industry events, of course, but something where the music libraries, some of the music supervisors and some of the sync agents are really coming to powwow and really talk to, really build some kind of connections. Is not really that much here in Atlanta specifically. I wish there was,
Yeah, for sure,
but
man.
it's more
100%.
panels and everything going on than anything, but not really, hey, let's grab a drink and let's actually talk. That's really what those events are. Like, there's nothing else to do but drink and talk to people. That's it.
Right, right. For sure, man. I went to NAM, and we got put on by the homie the Fingers, and he had the day before we met up with everybody. There was like a little networking event that was private, and just being it's been a while since I like been in that situation where I was networking. I did it before COVID when I was working
Yes.
for a music library, but when I got put back into that situation, I realized the power of just being able to communicate and just be able to like just chop it up about just different things. Like you really get a sense of how that person is. Like you really
Yes.
you build that connection there. So
You really
that's
do.
something I definitely preach on. I'm glad that I'm seeing like more people starting to build these events, especially like I see like Clint and Jay Will starting to put something together and stuff like that, which I love, and especially by introducing diversity, because there's not a lot of diversity going on in this situation, man. And I'm glad to see
Not a lot of us.
yeah, more people coming up front about it and just, calling it out and just kind of putting these events together to really build a bigger network, because there's a lot of talent out there that's just not limited to one type of person. So there's I'm glad that, I feel like the hip hop and R&B and like even like almost the EDM side of the wave for sync for artists who were like and producers who are super talented is very late to sing. Like the old heads, like the rock dudes and the orchestra guys, they all knew about this lane before.
Yeah, they've been on it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I feel like we get a stigma that like sync licensing is gate kept, which is why I appreciate you taking your knowledge and putting it on these different platforms to share it, man. So we didn't really tap into the artists that you work with. Do you collaborate with artists now within sync licensing and kind of pitch those tracks out? Because you had a network of artists that you worked with before who had like publishing deals and stuff like that, and kind of had a name to themselves. So is that an approach you take now?
Honestly, it's relationship based. Like, I'm not just searching for a bunch of artists, to work with. It's not that easy for me to work with artists all the time. Like, these people I've known since. These are like 10-year plus relationships, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, the young lady, this is why relationships are important. The young lady I got my first song placement with, not instrumental, first song placement. I've known her since she was 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
Because me and her brother, he was my best friend. We grew up together, and she would always be around. She grew up to be this beautiful singer, songwriter, and I had her pull up to my house one day, and we cut 3 records, and one of those records were the ones that got placed, and that was our first time ever working together.
That's dope, man. That's so dope. Yeah. It's cool to hear you got that strong foundation from a long time ago. Still building that relationship. That's cool that you guys can win together. That's actually pretty unique. You don't really hear too many people do that nowadays, especially within the sync space. So are there any big mistakes that you have made or that you learned from on your journey within getting your first sync placement to now? Is there anything that kind of maybe messed up a deal, or maybe something that really had to be kind of drilled into your workflow, or maybe a bad email pitch? Is there any type of mistakes that you made that you kind of learned from that you can give advice on now?
Yeah, do your research, please. I have been, I wouldn't say cursed out, but like, sending an unsolicited email and getting back, how did you get this email? um, yeah, like just be mindful of who, and upon doing further research, I realized I didn't pitch them what they wanted. You know what I mean? And I didn't present it the right way. I just came in as like this very eager, just composer just trying to get something off. I wasn't disciplined in what it is that I really needed to, how I needed to pitch it. So that's when I quickly learned that this isn't the music business. You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't like the regular music industry stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you legit have to go in this building, like being intentional about building the relationships like that actually work for your music. You know what I'm saying? Like that was something I had to learn. It took me some time to learn. It really did. It took me some time to learn. And I think I executed it perfectly with the Sisters project, if I'm being honest, with how I got that. That's when I know I was like, oh snap, I can do this again.
Yeah, tap into that a little bit. We didn't really go over any of your placements that you have so far. Are there any favorite placements you have that you got right now, or that you're working on right now that you're really proud of that you want to share on here?
My most recent one is Sisters right now.
Which is a good one
Sisters,
to get
Tyler
on.
Perry Sisters on BET. They brought me on last year to be the lead composer. And I gave them so much music that they filtered it out so much. Like I have music in this season as well. So that's kind of been the gift that keeps on giving. And that was one of the projects that I reached out to the music supervisor directly. It took her some time to reach back out to me. And at one point I was like, "Oh, she not rocking with me at all." But it popped up maybe 6 months later. I think I reached out to her top of January, 2022, and then May 2022, like literally Memorial Day weekend. That was when she had responded back to me and said, "This is the business that we're trying to do." And I was
Nice.
like, "Oh snap!" I was like, "Oh, I actually did it." But I manifested that too, kind of because I used to watch the show with my wife. You know what I mean? I watched. Of course, they're 5 seasons in, but like for the first season, I watched it with my wife. To be a good husband and be around. Although the show was nuts, it was a little bit too much for me to mentally process. But as time went on, I was listening. I'm like, wait a minute. I have music for this show. You know what I mean? Like there was no question I had music for the show. So I didn't. It didn't dawn on me to just check out who the music supervisor is until season 4, season 5. I was like, okay, let me ask season 4. I was like, let me see what music supervisor is, and I went and I looked her up. Couldn't find any information about this lady. Actually, I found a little bit of information about her, but I couldn't find an email or like anything company based. You know what I'm saying? So I
Right.
just had to do a little bit of digging, and this is why having a good wife in your corner is very, very important, because she just so happened to present it to me. She was like, I found something you've been looking for, and boom. And yeah, and I shot my shot. And beyond that, right after the deal, after we closed the deal, I flew out to LA to meet with her personally. We went out to eat. I actually built a relationship. Like really went out there to go build a relationship. It was like, yo, y'all paid me a lot of money to do this. Why wouldn't I want to see the person's face who
Right.
facilitated this? Because she didn't know me from a can of paint. Like she ain't never seen me before. She's never met me before. I don't even think she even went and checked out my previous work, if I'm being honest. It was just, send over a few demos. Let me see what you got, and these are perfect. And I was prepared for it. I was literally prepared.
And this is something that I think that really you stuck out to me as opposed to a lot of other people who may be sharing about sync in this space, is that you present yourself as a library, and you prefer, and you preach about this, you prefer to work directly with the music supervisor as opposed to just maybe going to the music library first. Now, obviously, you're more established in this industry, so if you're just starting out, a music library may be the best approach to you to gain that
It's
experience.
the best
But
one.
but now you're at that point where you're pitching as a library. The fact that you went out there just to meet her, just to get that one-on-one FaceTime, like you're building a long-lasting relationship there. Like a music supervisor doesn't just work on one show most of the time and just stay with that show. They bounce around. They're always with
Yeah,
different
they do.
production companies. They may be working on multiple shows at the same time. So now that you have that established relationship with her and you build that credibility within yourself, every time she has a project that your music fits the mark, she's going to be thinking about you firsthand on the top couple of people that she may have for that show. So that's an amazing thing that you did there.
Yeah.
You're definitely an advocate on pitching to music libraries or to music supervisors. Can you kind of elaborate more why that's your approach and why you think that's, in my opinion, that should be everybody's long-term goal? Like everybody should be moving towards that.
It's because, I mean, first off, I kind of would like to cut out the middleman. And I'm a person, I realized very quickly that I'm a high volume producer. Like I used to make beats every day, you know what I mean? Like from 15 to, I think, to 25, I was making beats every day, 5 to 10 beats a day. Like
Damn.
I was doing that every day. And after some time, you look up, and after 7 or 8 hard drives you done burned through, it's like, wait a minute, what are we doing right now? You know what I mean? Like even now, I don't even burn myself out by making tracks all the time. Like I'm legit, you know, going through my old catalog. But I say that to say there's no reason for me to take this 100 or 200 tracks and go to a music library that has 15 or 1600 or whatever the case they may have. And it's just like, I can pitch that. I can take that whole thing and do that myself. You know what I mean? Like, because now I kind of know the system. It's really just finding who are they partnered with or who are they talking to that I can connect with. You know what I mean? Like, and it made me go back through my mental Rolodex a little bit, because I was like, I have bumped into some people who have gone on to, you know, not own, but, you know, they've gone on to be like VPs of television and film at like BMG and all this other random places. And it's just like, these are the people who I need to be talking to, because these are the ones that are not only facilitating the composer deals, they're facilitating the library deals as well. You know, and it's easier for me to kind of come in and say, hey, I've done this for another company. I've done this for Viacom, even some of your, you know, competitors. How can we do this?
Right. 100%. And how are you keeping that relationship nourished? I feel like it's like if somebody reaches out to a music supervisor, right? We have somebody on here who's watching the stream that may be reaching out to a music supervisor directly, and they want to try that approach. They maybe got a couple placements under their belt and they're ready to take that first step. And, you know, you say you didn't hear back for a while from the music supervisor that you reached out to up until Memorial Day. How can somebody kind of nourish that relationship, or should they be following up a lot? Like how is your approach or your mental state in that situation?
I will say I did follow up once and I did not get a response. And I was like, you know what, just let me hold off. Let me be patient, because, and I'm preaching patience because I struggle with it. All right. You looking at a dude that if you tell me we about to 2:00, 1:59, I'm there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like I have to, I had to learn to kind of like, yo, chill. It's like plant your seeds and let it happen. You know what I mean? One of the main things I did with her is I did my research. I did so much research on this woman, and come to find out she was a music supervisor for Breaking Bad. I love that show.
Yeah,
I can tell you every freaking scene with the songs that I like. So that's how I hit her. I was like, yo, this scene right here, the way you place this music here, like, that is like, your ear is superb. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I want you to hear what I have. So I want us to be able to work together on a project, and I want you to use that same ear and tell me what's right for this. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I presented it. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like, I have what you want. You know, it's not like you're getting this from everybody else. Like, I have specifically what you want for this show. You know what I'm saying? I don't care, whatever it is that you're working on. This one right here that I watch and I have some knowledge on, this is what I want to work with you on. You know what I mean? Everything else can kind of, you know, come in later, but this is what I want to work with you on. And clearly she was knee deep in that project. So it was like, let's go get somebody who can work with me on this. So it worked. It's the stars aligning, and just, you know, like I said, just being patient, yo. Like, really, really be patient. You know what I mean? This is a real hurry up and wait game sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
It really is. And I had to learn that. It took me 8 years to learn that, honestly.
I really want to kind of break down a couple of things that you did there that I think is pretty important for people to kind of note down. If you're taking notes, like, this is something I think is very important. When he reached out to that, well, one, he preaches on research. That's something that you're going to hear people who are established in this space always talk about, how important researching is when you're trying to pitch your music. Whether you're going on their website, looking at some of their credentials or who they're about, like if you're looking at a music library, what made them start that music library, who have they work with, really figure out their story. And then also going on maybe IMDb or looking at, you know, LinkedIn or something and seeing what kind of projects they have worked on, you know, and being a fan of that. You
Yeah.
approach that situation being a fan. You approach that situation very uniquely, I must say. Props to you for that. Like, kind of just saying, like, taking that same ear that they used for Breaking Bad and then using that and translating into the new show they're doing now. Like, props to you for kind of approaching yourself that way. But those are a couple of things that I think anybody here who's really trying to, not maybe, even if you're not trying to pitch to a music supervisor, but even a music library, like taking those extra few steps, not just to find a list and take the top 25 people off that list and copy and paste an email and send it out, but actually taking your time and doing the research and making a dedicated pitch to that person and building that relationship is going to take you farther than just some random person who's just sending them a link out of 50 other people who have already done it that same week. So that's something that I really commend you on. And thanks for sharing that story with us as well. Leading to that, you kind of answered my question, my next question, which is what are the best practices with researching and pitching out to these libraries? But are there any other additional tips that you can give anybody that maybe you didn't touch on about anybody who's looking to even just get into a music library who's trying to get started out?
Well, I'll answer the first part of that. I still do things like the weird old traditional way. Like I only pitch the stuff that I like, you know what I'm saying? Like shows that I watch, and I women live with me, so they watch a lot of television, you know what I'm saying? So I'm able to, in my studio, I'm able to hear, they play the television so loud, so I'm able to hear the different music from, some of the shows that they're watching. I'll sometimes I'll get sucked in and watch to the end of the credits and like literally dissect, okay, if they don't have a music supervisor, who's the music licensing coordinator or something like that. Those are the people that I'm searching for. And I do it at the movie theaters too, man. I sat to the end of Spider-Man and Transformers and all that just to see who the music supervisor was or who the composer was. And I'm IMDb, and I'm an IMDb Pro, heavy, very, very heavy. But the same approach I do with like, pitching to a music supervisor, I do the same with the music library as well, because I still pitch to music libraries. Now, I don't want people to think, oh, I'm completely sworn off, because there's new music libraries popping up all the time. And there's ones that I'm not even familiar with. So, when I see something that's like, oh, they're responsible for securing this placement over here, let me see if I can get something over here. Like, I do that a lot. I still go about it the old traditional way. I'm not just sitting back, kicking my feet up, waiting for everybody else to, facilitate a deal for me. You know what I mean? I'm on the ground, just like, any other composer. Although I am, I present myself as a music library, I'm still putting in that grind.
Right, for sure. You preached on earlier about planting seeds, which is important. I feel like this is a space you got to be in a lot of different areas to really like. You want to be everywhere. You want to be building your own mini catalogs and other people's catalogs. So,
And I'll also say one of the sync libraries that got me a music placement recently, it took them a while to do that, if I'm being honest. Like I had signed, that was probably one of the first deals I facilitated by myself, like literally read through the paperwork, understood everything, negotiated my deal points and everything. I did it all by myself. So I keep seeing this source audio music library. And I think Excalibur can kind of help me out with this. To my knowledge, I don't think they're a music library. I think they're just like an audio platform that, multiple companies use to upload. Like it's pretty much a housing service, you know what I'm saying, for all the music libraries. Not all of them, but a lot of them use it because, you can just put so much music up there, thousands, you know what I'm saying, upon thousands of songs up there. So, like I said, he might be able to answer that question if they're a music library, because I'm not, to my knowledge, I don't think they are a music library. I just look at them as like the SoundCloud of just music licensing as far as like audio is concerned. Somebody else said, how many music libraries am I with? As of right now, I'm only signed to one. The rest of them are just sync agents. I have non-exclusive. At one point, at the height of like me getting sync placements, I was with maybe like 2 or 3 different music libraries at a time. And I actually, as time progressed, I realized only one of them was really, pumping to like really moving my music to the shows that I actually wanted. I'm reading this question of how do you title tracks and albums? If I'm working with a music library, I have titled my own tracks, and then like there's been certain times where they'll completely finalize them like with a whole new title, and I'll have a list of my titles compared to their titles. Like I literally have that entire, I have a master list of all that stuff, and it took us a few years to compile that, but I ended up figuring that out. Speaking of which, I know this is going off on a tangent. You said something on one of your TikTok videos that stuck with me, and it's something that didn't even apply, but it worked later on, right? So when you were talking about titling music for music libraries or whatever, and starting them with like A, you know what I'm saying, and that kind of thing. So I have this. There were 3 beats that I sold to Viacom. One of them specifically was called Young Thug. They retitled it Thug It Out. And there was another record that was called After the Set. They kept it After the Set. And that particular beat gets placed every year in Love and Hip Hop just because I'm sure it's because of the titling of it.
Yeah, man.
It has to be because of the titling. But when you said that, I was like, oh, that makes so much freaking sense.
Yeah, man. If the tip that I shared was that when music editors are going through the music and they are like, imagine you going through Adobe Premiere, they have something called Avid, and you're
Yes.
picking out the music. Everything is cataloged and it's in order.
Yes.
So they have like folders of libraries, and then they have these libraries have these genres. So when they open up a folder, everything that's in alphabetical order shows up at the top. So starting with A or even a number. So
Yeah.
I advise like starting it with A. So I'll put like A TikTok gym or A,
Yeah.
another hip hop beat or something, right? So that's how I usually title. So the fact that you kind of caught that is smart. And then another
Yeah.
thing that you touched on too as well is that you had the track name Young Thug. A lot
Mm,
of you can get in trouble for, well, they
you
can get in
can.
trouble
I
if,
learned that early on.
yeah, if you use
And
artist names.
I had another beat called Rick Ross Boss or whatever. They changed that to Ross Boss. Like they completely
Yeah.
like it was a few things like I had to learn like, okay, I can't, I learned that early on, but as time progressed, you could see how my mind was, oh, this sounds like this artist, so I'm gonna title it this artist name, so that's one thing I had to learn, to distinguish, the music industry of music industry stuff versus the, sync licensing game.
Sebi Beat said, "Are instrumentals still requested, or are full songs with lyrics preferred?"
I will say this for every song I get that I pitch, they always ask for the instrumental. Um, and sometimes they prefer the instrumental over the song. I've gotten that plenty of times when I pitch a song. They're like, "We like this song, but can we just license the instrumental?" I've had that plenty of times.
Yeah, that happens all the
So
time.
that's why I've just been, especially for the reality TV stuff now, I just send them a bunch of instrumentals. And even sync agents, they've been asking me for instrumentals, so I just send them a little bit of everything. Um, and then trickle the full songs in there every once in a while. It's project specific. If I'm pitching for a show specifically, I'm sending them specific R&B or something for that show, like what they're actually asking for. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
I try not to veer off. I try not to overthink and veer off of what they want, because when I completely do opposite of what they want, I don't get no response at all.
Yeah,
So that's why I say don't overthink. I think I tell people that all the time. Do not overthink this. What do I, is if it ain't what they want, don't pitch it. If you have to think about it, don't pitch it. You know what I'm saying? Like it legit has to come naturally. Like, oh no, this sounds like this fits the exact example of what they sent. You know what I mean? This
right.
is very descriptive as to what they want. You know what I mean? Sometimes the music supervisors don't always know what they want. They can't always descriptively tell you that. But it takes you being, I think that's the gift that I have. Like we can have a conversation and I can kind of digest musically what you're trying to tell me. You know what I mean? I guess I've been around enough artists for them to tell me, hey, this sounds like or feels like this. And
Mm.
it's like, okay, I know what sounds and feels like that. You know what I mean? It's like it's a language that we speak as musicians. You know what I'm saying? It's and I think we kind of we shoot ourselves in the foot when we overthink it. You know what I mean? Like I tell producers all the time, it don't take much to create nothing. Like y'all make too much music to just be having to overthink how to create certain things. It just comes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It just comes. So
100%.
yeah,
And we're seeing instrumentals be used all the time, and
all the time.
vocals. Like vocals are becoming way more popular, but I mean 60%, 70% of all music and any type of TV film is going to be instrumental. You got to
Yeah,
understand that we're making music for dialogue and not artists. So most
true.
of the stuff you're hearing on the content that you're watching is just dialogue. They can't have stuff that competes with that. Vocal tracks compete with that most of the time, so they use it in certain places. So most of it
Yeah,
is instrumental still, but they're definitely there's way more songs being made, or that
Mhm.
they're being used as well. This next
Yeah.
question is, do you do any cinematic hip hop? And what's a good outlet for
Um,
that?
yo, that's a really good question. Have I done cinematic hip hop in the past? Yes. I haven't tapped into it as of recently, but there's actually two projects my wife wants me to work on specifically that involve remixes, cinematic remixes for hip hop songs. So I have to work on that ASAP.
Definitely, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
We got Matt Global Records said, should we title instrumentals type beat?
Nah.
Definitely not.
No.
I wouldn't even use beat in your pitch.
Yeah. Never that.
I beat instrumentals and vocals. If you're not sure what sync, the industry term for instrumentals or the industry term for vocals is just called Q. And I've
Yeah.
seen a student of mine try to pitch to a company. They liked his music. They're sent him out a contract, but then he used the word beats. It's like, how many beats would you guys like? And then they instantly said, nah, we don't want to work with you anymore,
Yeah.
just
Nah.
because they don't
Yeah.
want to have to
Q.
like tailor and kind of build out a producer who works for specifically artists. I don't know. It's kind of an
Exactly.
outdated approach.
If you have a catalog of multiple genres, how would you pitch? That's a really good question. Um, Gosh, I don't even know how to answer that one because I one thing I had to do, especially when I found one music library and I started running around and trying to find others, I quickly realized that not every library fits my music, and I had to learn that the hard way. With just the denials and things like that. Um, it's kind of like I hate to compare it to the label side of things. Like labels, they sign a bunch of artists, right? What they do is they sign a bunch of artists and they throw out whatever they possibly can, to see which one sticks. And that's kind of what I had to do, like with some of the libraries. Like with some of the libraries I was pitching to, I was like pitching 10 here, pitching 10 there, 10 there, 10 there, just to see, who would grab a hold to it. I'm saying? And there's some people that will bite and some that wouldn't. And then others would say, hey, do you have more of this genre? Do you have more, of this 90s hip hop stuff? Or do you have more of this rock/pop stuff? And then it's like, okay, well, maybe I don't have all of that. So maybe this is the best library for me to rock with. Maybe,
Mm,
you know, don't go chasing waterfalls.
yeah. Definitely. You definitely want to like kind of stick to what you're good at. If you're
Yeah,
doing multiple genres, but you're strong, very, very strong at one, start with that one and just provide as much as possible in that one. And then
yeah,
start adding the other genres. When I first started, I was chasing every genre. I was doing what you said. I was
everything,
just
man.
doing, I was trying every single thing. And I was
Yeah,
just getting like killed by the people who were good in that style. Like I wasn't
yeah,
even being
bro.
heard compared to them. But for my style,
Yeah, man.
they always were like when they started requesting it, I was just like, all right, let me just keep tapping into this lane. So you definitely got to be careful with that.
Yes,
If you have multiple genres, there's no problem pitching, but you don't want to be too crazy where you're like having one country track with one hip hop track, with one EDM
yeah,
track, with one folk track or ballet. Just keep it
yeah.
kind of general.
Know your strengths. It's a really
Exactly.
know your strengths thing. And I realize I'm good. I know hip hop. I know R&B. One of my biggest strengths is 90s hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Mm,
grew up in that era, so I love it. I know it. Like, not even 90s hip hop mixed with a little bit of trap. We're talking about boom bap. You know what I'm saying? And even making it so where it sounds like it's sampled, but it's not sampled. It's original joints that I've processed over and over and over again to make them sound authentic. So, you know, yeah, I
so
am a sound designer too. So, that's one thing I love to do.
that's a good point that you made.
Yeah.
A lot of people can capitalize off getting into a music library, being really good at an era of music. So if you do like
Mhm.
60s or like 70s, like
Yes.
anything very
Yeah.
specific. So if you do a track that's like based off of like 90s hip hop, did you find success in that? Did you find it like yourself to be able to find a lane for yourself with that with 90s hip hop? Like you found
With certain projects that called for it, absolutely, absolutely. One of the first for it was a documentary for Own Network that I did, and they needed like jazzy, like 90s hip hop, and I was like, jazzy 90s hip hop. And I was like, and it made me go through my catalog for a little bit. And I ended up finding a few things that were actually dope. and had to create some, some new cues too that kind of mimic that style, and they ended up placing all that stuff in that show. And that was when it was really specific, like, oh, I can do this is specific 90s hip hop for a Sag Harbor documentary of all things. So
yeah. I seen 90s hip hop gets requested a lot when they're doing documentaries, especially like I've seen requests, like a ton of requests for like a busy documentary that they were doing. If they ever do like a Tupac documentary, anybody in that era, you're going to see that. This is off topic, but what year were you born? I was 91. I'm 91.
I was born in 85.
Oh, okay.
I was born in 85.
Makes sense with the name then. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And that's interesting that you say that too. Did you realize, I don't think people fully grasp, you know how many documentaries are on like Roku and on YouTube and all these other random places, bro? And there's just so much random hip hop in it. Like it's 60, 70 pieces. And I know, and here's what I do know, what I learned about not only myself, but other creatives. Not every producer is capable of producing 70 joints in a very short time. You know what I mean? Like you'll get burnt out very, very quickly. You know what I mean? Like you can be a high volume producer, but not have the quality, or be a low volume producer, but produce dope quality. You know what I'm saying? And you can have a wave of both. You know what I'm saying? But don't have them sitting on your hard drive for too long, my brother. Like move them things around. I mean, that's the only thing I can tell you is just move them around. So
100%.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
We have another question here. He says, do you do collabs? How can someone collab with you?
Hey, hop in the DMs, man. Let me just see what we can do.
And his info's in the description. If you're trying to figure him out, follow my man here. He has a lot of great information. As you guys can hear, he's not sharing things that a lot of other people are really talking about, that I feel like I'm hearing kind of being said a lot within the sync space online, in my opinion. Most of the stuff he's saying, you have to find on forums, you have to find on Discord servers or something. Like you got to dig deep to really find this type of info. So yeah, thanks for sharing all this stuff that you're sharing so far. Any other platforms too that you want to share, or anything that you have? I know you have a mentorship and a course and stuff like that. Do you want to, where can people find you, and what kind of services do you provide that people can use as a resource?
That's crazy that you mentioned that, because people have just been finding the mentorship program. I have quite a few guys in there now. One of them actually just got his first sync deal, as a matter of fact.
Love to hear it, man.
And yeah, you can check me out at 1985music.com. You can follow me, PlanB85 on Instagram. Like I said, I do offer mentorship. I do offer a course. And going back to, but before I even dive into that, you had answered somebody's question. It was somebody replied to one of your videos talking about gatekeepers in sync. And I was driving. I hate to say that I text and drive, but I was driving when I saw that, and I was like, yo, I want to respond to this in the right way. And I personally don't believe that there are gatekeepers in sync, because there's so much content. There's so many different avenues for you to maneuver your music in sync. And what I do know is not everybody's going to be able to work on the same project. One of my friends, who's Matt Head, he's the music composer on P Valley. And he told me, when we first conversation that we had, he was like, look, everybody has their go-to composer that they go to. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to be able to tap in with that over there. You know what I mean? Like, you have to kind of create your own lane and move where your music is going to work the best. You know what I'm saying? And that takes years of cultivating the right relationships, with certain people. And it just made a lot of sense. He was talking about like Jordan Peele, like, and his composer that he uses for a lot of his stuff. He was just kind of just like, even for like the Black Panther stuff, they had one specific composer for that, for all three of them. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you kind of have to tap in with those projects that you can grow with from the ground up. You know what I mean? Go on Tubi, watch a few of those crazy ass movies, right? Look at some, I'm telling you, and look at some of the music supervisors, and look at some of the projects that they're working on. They're working on a lot of random stuff, and they have budgets.
100%. They do.
Go check them out. You know what I mean? Just do some research, man. I'm telling you. On top of that, there's I will say this: there's not. When I say there's not a lot of gatekeepers, there are. Everybody's still working with their friends. They're working with their homies. You know what I mean? That's really what it is. And I'm glad somebody said something about collaboration, because I consider myself a horrible collaborator. Like, even the people who are collaborating with me right now, they're using a lot of my loops and stuff, and just, you know, sending the beats back to me and saying, "Hey, yo, how can we work this?" And some of these beats are crazy. I'm creating a whole library with people using my sound design and just using, you know, because I'm not always available to, you know, us to be working together all the time. But it's like, hey, if you found a sound of mine that you really like, and, you know, you can flip it and make something shake, then let's do it. And that's what a lot of my, you know, my producer homies who have, you know, have access to some of my sound design stuff, that's what they've been doing as of lately. But collaboration is key. The person that's like really next to you is the person that's going to get you your sync placement, honestly. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it's going to be. Even my friends who've gotten sync placements outside of me, it was somebody else that they knew, you know, that helped facilitate the deal. They just kind of brought it back to me and was like, hey, is this right? You know what I'm saying? Let me know if the deal points are correct. And I was able to kind of help, you know, in that manner. And I know this is a very like long-winded answer, but yeah, it's, I encourage you guys to continuously like connect with the people next to you, continuously follow Excalibur, like follow people like Clint, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, follow, I think my man's name is Joshua, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, like follow those people. Like they have really, really, really good information. It's really execution, yo. Execution. You have to execute. Just don't get these emails and just be sitting on them. Like really do some research on these people, like the people that you really want to build long-lasting relationships with in the sync world. Just like you build long-lasting relationships with people that your artists and producers that you work with, you got to do that with a music supervisor, do that with a sync agent, and do that with a music library too. And even with the music library, getting good with the people in that office. Like Flavor Lab, for example, the music library that I first signed with, they would have events at their offices in New York, and I would go there all the time. Every event that they had, I would go. Could y'all still hear me even after all
Yeah,
that?
they can hear you. I was watching it on YouTube. You're going off right now, man. Keep it
Okay.
going. You're giving some gems.
So yeah, I used to go to their events all the time, and I started getting good with everybody that was in there, like the editors, you know what I'm saying? Even the new licensing coordinator that they brought in, I just got in good with everybody. So my name just stayed in the office, even after like my contact, like my plug, even after he left and went to Splice. You know what I'm saying? I still had my, you know, they were still placing my stuff there. It just didn't stop. So build these relationships. I'm telling you, that's what's going to get you in the door. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going to keep you. That's really what's going to keep you around. I like looking at my cue sheets and seeing like some of my homies that I talked to about sync licensing 8 years ago still getting placements. Like that's what I like to see. I used to tell all my homies about it. Only one of them like literally took my plug and ran with it. That's what he did. And everybody else, of course, everybody's still doing their thing right now, but he's the only one that I know that I talked to back in 2015, 2016. Like, yo, I showed him my first royalty check. I was like, yo, this joint crazy. So we can get this. You know what I'm saying? But he was the only one that took it and ran with it. Everybody else just, everybody was still kind of chasing the artist placement thing. You know what I mean? Like, I fell off that wagon years ago.
Same, man.
So,
I see it, especially with teaching. Like teaching, I see people try to dabble in so many different things, and I'm like, yo, like I was that person. I was a person who tried beat selling. I was a person who was online making content back in 2013. I seen the early waves of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Nothing came as consistent and found me more success than this lane. And you were spitting a lot of gems right here. And I kind of want to go back a little bit. You were talking about building those relationships too. And if you guys are looking for people to build those relationships, obviously like use like LinkedIn and stuff like that. But he touched on earlier that some of these companies, like Black Panther, for example, may have the same go-to composer for 3 years. So if you're like, well, how can I kind of differentiate? Like, how can I build that relationship with the person who's just starting out? Look for the people who work under music supervisors. Some of those people are going to be music coordinators, licensing coordinators, what he talked about earlier. Same thing, music coordinator. That's kind of what I started out with Signature Tracks when I worked there. You could do music associate. That's another one that's right under there. Junior music supervisor. All those people are the ones working under the music supervisor. And those are the people that you can build a relationship with now when they're doing all that back end work, like cue sheets and stuff like that, or clearing a song, all the stuff they're doing to help assist that music supervisor. if you build that relationship with them now, by the time they get to that music supervisor role, because they're climbing their ranks, that's where you come in. That's where you're like, that's where you kind of take over in that lane. So that's, you know, it was a good gem that he was sharing there earlier. A question from Q below is it worth signing up with IMDb Pro before we get into a library?
It really depends on what your approach is. Honestly, if you're trying to reach out to music supervisors or, you know, licensing coordinators directly, then IMDb Pro is the way to go. But if you're really just starting out, I would go with the library first and really get your feet wet, man. I'm telling you, that's probably one of the easiest. I'm glad I went with the music library first. I wouldn't do it any other way. I wouldn't do it any other way. I would get with the music library, like I did in the beginning, and just, you know, kind of work my way up the ranks and really learn. You know, how do you get to the next level? Because I started asking myself, who are they talking to? How are they facilitating these deals? Like, what music libraries? What sync? You know, like, who are they talking to? That's what my brain kind of got. You know, so I really got tapped in. So
I have some that I stay away from for sure. Is like any pay to submit.
Oh,
like
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't do pay to submit.
To that capacity, yes.
I tried it out. It's not. I tried.
I actually just somebody put me on.
My bad. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You were on to something.
Oh, I tried out one of them, and I just realized, like, it's not, you never guarantee the placement. So even if you pay to submit, you're never guaranteed the fact that, one, they're going to even put it in their pitches when they're pitching their music out, or two, that the company that they're pitching it to is going to like the song. So at that point, you're kind of just burning out dollars, unless they're giving you like crazy feedback and crazy resources that kind of help you to get those tracks placed.
One of the sync agents that I rock with, they would send me, anytime they pitch something, they would send me something every quarter as to what was pitched and which songs they liked the best. And it was always the same song, same 2 or 3 songs every month. But unfortunately, nothing got placed. But swinging back to something that before we got cut out, we were talking about a sync agent who I was working with for quite some time. I signed with them in 2017. They got me a placement on a season of Power, right? It would have been my first song placement, but make a long story short, they ended up cutting the song. They ended up cutting the scene completely. The song that I had placed, they completely cut the scene. And, you know, of course, I didn't get the placement. But later on, you know, about maybe 2 or 3 years later, ended up getting a placement with, you know, on a whole nother show called All the Queens of Men with a young lady. And that was the sync agent that facilitated, you know, that deal. Now, of course, I wouldn't tell anybody to, you know, wait 3 years for, you know, a sync placement. But I planted that seed so many years ago. Like, that song probably they were pitching that song for maybe like a year before it got placed. But I was still kind of moving that song around and still getting other placements. I wasn't really just waiting on that one. That just so happened to come, you know, right after, you know, Sisters and a couple of other placements that I got prior to. So plant seeds. Simple.
Yeah, you kind of touched on this on a video that I saw you posted. You kind of said that you approach sync licensing like it's almost like the stock market, where you just put your like, living in a library is a long-term investment. Like, it doesn't have to be used now. If you're accepted into a library and that track lives in their library, it could be used years and years and years. And I still have tracks that are old, that are terrible now. In my opinion, that still get placed just because they're in the library. And that's how you that's why I kind of preach starting with the library, but then eventually like moving on and like starting your own thing. Right now, what I'm doing is building my own library. And after I get this thing established, I'm giving out the keys, man. I'm telling people how to do it, like, straight up. This is what I did. This is how I got a lawyer. This is how you know, the processes that I'm going through now that I'm learning, like the legal side of it, everything. I'm going to give those keys away, because I feel like people who take this serious, and you touched on this earlier, you said that you had a friend that you showed how to do this earlier, and he didn't, and the other ones didn't really listen, but that one friend did. I see that now within the communities that that we're building out. You can see those people who are like really just tapped in, always coming up the streams, and a lot of different communities who really want this, that I know for a fact that they can find success for this and change their life completely. And that's why I do this stuff. Like, I feel like I can take that, what I'm doing now, what you're doing now, and like give it out we already doing it on like the music library side, but the whole spectrum side, like building out your own thing, like that's the goal right here. So you're doing that as well, even if it's not officially a music library. I'm not sure if you do have that, but officially a music library, that's exactly what you're doing. The fact that you're on Sisters right now and kind of taking control of that and finding a lot of success in that is admirable, man. So keep killing it, man, and keep sharing those resources and those gems, man. We really appreciate you coming on here. I don't want it to get cut off again, so we're gonna end it at that. We're a little bit over an hour with this stream and the last one. And I would love to have you back here again, man, so we can just kind of chop it up. And it was good, meeting you face to face on here for the first time. We got to link up in person whenever you're out in LA. If I remember out, you're in Atlanta, right? You said.
I'm in Atlanta right now, but I travel a lot. I'll be moving around. I actually just took a day trip to Miami Wednesday. I left like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, came back at like 10. Just so because I wanted to be near some water, because in Atlanta ain't no really big bodies of water. No, don't talk to me about Lake Lanier. Shut up. No, I'm not going there. Like I had to get away and like really be by some real water and do some real things. But what you said, you in LA? You said.
Yeah, I'm in LA.
But okay, I was actually supposed to go out there with my wife. I should have went, but whatever, man.
So, whenever you out here, if I'm out there, I think Clint's trying to put something together out there in the future. So I'm definitely going to try to be out there and stuff like that to check that out and show support. So definitely got to tap in and let people know where they can find you. I think we already talked about this a little bit earlier, but let people know what you got going on and anything you can share that they may find of value.
Yeah, for sure. You can reach out, holler at me on 1985music.com. Pretty much my whole life story is up there. At this point, right now, I'm really just knee deep in the mentorship thing, because it's information I've been kind of giving out to like my friends, in private for a long time, and this is really my first time actually doing it in a more structured manner. And I've been connecting with some really dope creatives and some just really talented guys that I probably wouldn't have linked up with, if I was outside, unfortunately. But got my mentorship program. I also have the course. Even if you just want to set up a consultation, you don't want to do, the mentorship thing, talk to me, man. Like I'm just like here, I'm giving out all the same gems. I feel like, if I'm being honest, it don't take 3 or 4 weeks for you to learn sync licensing. Honestly, I feel like I could tell you about sync licensing in a 9-to-5 work day, put you with a couple of people, and within a few days, they might contact you, they might not. But, it doesn't take, especially for a person who's been producing for so long, it's not rocket science, yo. Once you tapped in, you're going to be tapped in forever. I promise you. 1985music.com, at PlanB85 on Instagram and everywhere else, even on TikTok, PlanB85. I'm be posting content weekly. Like I said, right now, future endeavors, I'm really just, continuously building out my music library and, organizing, finding new music. I find music on my computer, bro. Like I'm at this point where I find music. So do not give up. Please be patient with this thing. Like I'm telling you, if you want to get in the sync, you got to be patient, yo. Do not rush it. You want to do it the right way. What Rick Ross say, I don't want to move fast, I want to move correctly. You know what I'm saying?
Boss. I hate the Ricky Boss.
But yo, thank you, X. Thank you for having me on, man. I greatly appreciate you, man. More than anything, man. Thank you for sharing the content. Just thank you for just opening your platform to me, man. I'm forever grateful to you, my man. I want to talk to you more about what you got going on. You know what I'm saying, as far as the music library thing, and the challenges that you've come with. You've had to face with that. But we definitely gonna talk more outside of here, man. No question.
100%, man. Thanks for even joining on here. I've been seeing your stuff, man, and like I feel like you're one of the people who a lot of people are going to start learning from, and I really appreciate you even taking the time to even speak with me. I already knew you had good intentions just based off the type of content you have, and you kind of put some funny stuff in there too, like the little clips you put, like the reference you made right now with Rick Ross. You do that with your content too as well, and it really caught my attention. So, man, like if there's anything I can ever do to help, or if I can pick your brain at any time with this music library stuff, I'm definitely going to reach out, just because I have learned stuff from this conversation that we had already, learned stuff from your content, and I'm glad that we can have you on here. And I hope everybody who's on here that is really serious about this comes out to you with any questions that they may have as well. We're going to be seeing more of you in the future. So I appreciate you, man. We're going to end the stream right here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit them up directly. Feel free to DM me directly. We're all out here trying to help.
No doubt.
All right, guys.
On and off, man.
All right. The stream is